trying to enjoy every moment, and I am excited about being on court in a professional tournament again.
We waited 681 days for this, the first professional match on clay for Rafa Nadal in almost 2 years, but before the week kicked off, I had lots of thoughts running through my mind. Was Rafa's body going to hold up this time? Will Casper Ruud get another bite at the cherry and finally win a title that isn't an ATP 250? Would the umpires do a better job this time? And were there going to be any surprises from a player who I didn't even have on my radar? The tennis world delivered more than it promised last week, and it was insane. From Casper Ruud winning the biggest title of his career in Barcelona and Jan-Lennard Struff creating history in Munich, to Elena Rybakina's crazy title run in Stuttgart, and everything in between, here's everything that happened in tennis last week. The ATP 250 jokes on Casper Ruud are officially dead now, and I'm really happy that I made that video on him a few weeks ago. It might not be a Slam or a Masters 1000 title, but winning an ATP 500 for the first time against a player who had just beaten him in the Monte Carlo final last week is one heck of an achievement. Oh, and he won the title without dropping a single set, taking down Alexandre Müller, Jordan Thompson, Matteo Arnaldi, and Thomas Martin Etcheverry before downing Tsitsipas in the final. Ruud had the better service game in the final this time, getting a lot more from his first and second serves. And he was also a lot more aggressive on the return too. Tsitsipas, however, had the better start to the match, breaking Ruud in the very first game, but the Norwegian needed to do this to break back. Firing on all cylinders, I was blown away with Ruud's backhand. The shot execution and placement was a massive step up from last week's final, and it paid off big time. I mean, look at this point right here. And in the crucial last game in the first set, we saw an improved backhand on full display again. A rude awakening for Tsitsipas, excuse the pun, as Ruud stole the first set at the death. Entering the second set, Tsitsipas was already running on fumes, while Ruud's forehand was at its lethal best. His backhand down the line continued to impress me more than anything else. And after 89 minutes of high-quality clay court action from two specialists, Barcelona had a worthy champion. 7-5, 6-3 your final score.
And he's done it. It is the biggest title of Casper Ruud's career.
Ruud's idol, Nadal, who we're also going to be talking about later on, would have been proud of that one. It's the biggest title of Ruud's career so far, and boy has it been a long time coming, because he was 0-7 in finals outside of 250s before now. The icing on the cake is that he avenged his Monte Carlo loss to Tsitsipas, at least in some way. 2024 is becoming Ruud's year, and let me blow your mind with some of the craziest stats he's put up so far. Ruud is now a staggering 26-0 this year when he wins the first set. You ain't coming from behind to beat him, that's for sure. Ruud is now 4-1 against top 10 players this year. Ruud has also been in a tour-leading 4 ATP finals this year. During a post-match interview back in Monte Carlo, Ruud said his goal for the clay season was to reach at least the quarterfinals of every event, and he's been delivering. With 29 match wins, Casper has now also won more matches in 2024 than any other player on tour at this point. But the best is yet to come. An 11th ATP title and the 10th on clay for Ruud, and his first title win since Estoril in April 2023. Ruud is now the new number 3 in the ATP finals race to Turin. It's also crazy because Ruud was a finalist in 2022, but then got kicked out of the top 10 the following year and didn't make the cut. But now he's back with some Viking energy. He now leads his rivalry with Tsitsipas 3-2. He's definitely back in business. Take a plunge, Casper. I'm actually here meeting with a bunch of tournament directors and with the WTA so we can keep getting access to these really awesome events to bring you the courtside content over the next few months. But honestly, the best part of being here in Madrid has just been the overwhelming amount of support I've had from everybody here. Everybody's super friendly. I mean, right guys?
Vamos Courtside! And viva el Málaga!
But while Casper has finally gotten the 250 monkey off his back, Tsitsipas still hasn't quite been able to tip the scales in his favor, at least at the ATP 500 level. I'm pretty sure Steph wouldn't be too happy with a disastrous 0-11 record in ATP 500 finals and 0-4 in Barcelona. But I'm not sure it matters so much, seeing that Steph has so many big titles to his name. Just a random fact anyway. After reaching back-to-back finals in Barcelona and Monte Carlo, Tsitsipas had already spent more than 8 hours on court, which was 2 hours more than Ruud coming into the final. Tsitsipas played more than 2 hours in each of his last 2 matches, even saving match points against Facundo Diaz-Acosta in the quarterfinal. There was a feeling that fatigue could be a factor in the final, so I wasn't too surprised to see Steph run out of gas in the second set. But that said, I'm pretty sure he would be happy with his performance over the last 2 weeks. Just like Casper, Steph went 10-1 between Monte Carlo and Barcelona. Before his 10-match winning streak, Tsitsipas was 25th in the race to Turin and had lost 6 of his last 7 matches against top 20 players. He also had no top 5 wins since 2022, but now it already seems like such a long time ago because he's now 5th in the race to Turin. What a turnaround. Who's down for a Casper-Tsitsipas trilogy in Madrid this year? Last week, Tsitsipas revealed that he won't play mixed doubles with Maria Sakkari at the Olympics if he qualifies for doubles with his brother Petros. Setting priorities right. Speaking of priorities, one of the best players in WTA history decided to call it quits because their priorities changed. Garbiñe Muguruza reached the top of the WTA rankings, won 2 Grand Slam titles at Roland Garros and Wimbledon, reached the final of the Australian Open, won the year-end championships, and 3 WTA 1000 titles. A future Hall of Famer for sure. Garbiñe was one of the players who could match Serena Williams' power, and she did beat both Williams sisters in Grand Slam finals. In her prime, Garbiñe was almost untouchable until her priorities began to change. We made a video about the 2-time Grand Slam champion not too long ago, talking about her decision to walk away from the sport, and now we know for sure that we won't be seeing her compete professionally anymore after she announced her retirement. Officially ending her career at 30 years old and confirming the open secret, Garbiñe played her last match in February 2023 and said that she made the decision to retire after taking some time off to rest, during which she noticed that she felt a lot better. In her retirement speech, she said, quote, "I realized that what I want most is to look at my next chapter and not so much at tennis," end quote. When asked what the future holds for her, the Spaniard said, "1,000 things. Professional tennis deprives you of many things. I want to make up for that lost time a little, do common things like being with my family or my friends. I have plans to form a family, getting married, having a dog. I want to continue being involved in the world of tennis. I've been commentating, involved with my sponsors. I'm not a person who sits back and does nothing." End quote. And the truth is that the life of a professional tennis player comes with a lot of sacrifices. But while one player was retiring, another one was coming out of retirement. Ymer retired last year following the announcement of an 18-month suspension for violating anti-doping rules in July 2023. 2023 was a weird year for the Swede because he hit a career high, breaking into the top 50, and he also reached the 3rd round of Wimbledon, coming from 2 sets down to beat Taylor Fritz. A few weeks before his big win over Fritz, Ymer had a meltdown in Lyon against Arthur Fils, and he got defaulted after lashing out here.
And Michael Ymer, well, he's going to be gone here. I think this is done.
He had been left frustrated after what he thought was a wrong call from an umpire who refused to give him any benefit of the doubt.
I've never witnessed that a ref says, "I'm not going to go down and check the mark."
Ymer was back on track until the news of his suspension came in. Ymer allegedly said that he missed a drug test because he was sleeping in after he had to take care of his sick brother, whom the CIS found out was playing a tournament in Finland. CIS upheld the suspension and Ymer retired a month after, but not before posting a lot of weird stuff on his social media, which he's since deleted. With about 8 months left to serve, Ymer would be hoping to start a new chapter in his career. Meanwhile, Simona Halep had to withdraw from the Madrid Open for health reasons, which kinda sucks because her comeback hasn't been working out as planned so far. But Halep isn't the only one who pulled out of Madrid. Arthur Cazaux rolled his ankle in Barcelona in his match against Arnaldi and is now set to miss Madrid. But perhaps the biggest name on the withdrawal list is Novak Djokovic. To be honest, I saw this one coming because although the clay season is a priority for him, Djokovic is looking to balance his schedule, keeping not just the Grand Slams in mind, but also the Olympics. Andy Murray was among the first players to withdraw from the Masters 1000 after sustaining an ankle injury during his loss to Tomasz Machac in Miami. But let's now skip to the good part and talk about someone who just won the first ATP title of his career. Jan-Lennard Struff wins the first title of his career in Munich 4 days before his 34th birthday. It's crazy to think that Struff turned pro in 2009 and was already inside the top 50 in 2014. Such a long time ago. Unfortunately for the German, he's been grinding away on tour for the last decade. I couldn't be more excited for him though. Last season was Struff's best and he came close to winning a title, holding match point against Francis Tiafoe in the Stuttgart final and also pushing Alcaraz to 3 sets in Madrid. Really, it couldn't have happened to a better person. Struff won the title without dropping a set, all while facing some of the toughest opponents in Felix Auger-Aliassime, Holger Rune, and Taylor Fritz in the final. One thing about Struff's game is that it comes with explosive power. He has beautiful technique on the forehand and is capable of powering through anyone from the baseline. That's exactly what he did in Munich. In front of a vocal home crowd against two-time defending champion Holger Rune, who was 11-0 in Munich entering into the semi-final, Struff's excellent first strike power tennis was on full display as he won 95% of his points on his first serve. Yes, that stat is not a mistake. Struff didn't just beat Rune, he annihilated the defending champion with his power and precision.
This is magical stuff.
6-2, 6-love. The match was over in 45 minutes, and I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. Struff entered into the final with an 0-3 record in ATP finals, and he wasn't going to have it easy against Taylor Fritz, more so with temperatures dropping to 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Fritz did a great job making Struff play the extra ball and held 3 set points in the first, but Struff saved them all in sensational fashion. The German eventually took care of business, winning the next 11 points in a row to take the first set before entering God mode in the second. One thing I noticed was how he kept attacking Fritz's second serves. Fritz could only win 9 out of his 27 second serve points, and that proved to be a major deciding factor in the outcome of the final. For Struff, it's a first tour-level title, a second top 20 win in the week for the German. He's now become the third oldest first-time ATP title winner in history at 33 years and 11 months, after Paolo Lorenzi won Kitzbühel at 34 years and 7 months in 2016, and Victor Estrella Burgos won Quito at 34 years and 6 months in 2015.
For Fritz, he's back to being the American #1, and he's now reached a first tour-level final on clay. Not a bad accomplishment, if you ask me.
Before now, Fritz had lost all 6 of his previous tour-level semifinals on clay, but after beating Guerin in straight sets in the Munich semifinal, he might want to take some solace in his performance last week. We could say the same for Rafael Nadal, too. Rafa stepped on clay for a professional match for the first time in 681 days. The 12-time Barcelona champion had a 66-4 record in his home tournament, and man, did we see some beautiful trademark shots in his first match against Caboli.
Oh, what a combo.
Rafa eventually bowed out to Alex de Minaur in the following round, and that will likely be the last time we'll see him play in Barcelona. Rafa's physicality and serve may not be where he wants it to be at the moment, but we still have a month before the French Open, and the goal would be to get there in one piece. But let's face it, Rafa might no longer be a favorite for the Roland Garros title, which is even difficult for me to say considering everything he's done on clay and in tennis. And I know that's not going to be a popular take, but just judging from a physicality standpoint and what I saw from him on the practice courts in Madrid, winning the title may be a little far-fetched at this point. That being said, 4 weeks is a long time to put things in order, and I have no doubt that Rafa is going to bring the heat and go out with a bang. Seeing him healthy enough to play is a massive win for all of us.
But we also need to mention some of the other interesting storylines from last week.
Martin Fucsovics won a second career title at 32 years old, beating Mariano Navone 6-4, 7-5 to take the trophy in Bucharest. And this is what it means to be an ATP champion again after 2,157 days. I mean, this dude is in better shape than 99.99% of the tour. What stands out for me in Fucsovics' game was seeing him hit lots of backhand topspin shots with his open stance rather than his usual backhand slice, and I'm eager to see how he performs with his backhand in the bigger clay tournaments. Alexander Zverev, however, has had a bit of a slow start to the clay season this year. He lost to Cristian Garin for the second time in Munich, with Garin becoming the first player ranked outside the top 100 to defeat Zverev in straight sets since 2015. Zverev will now be looking to get back to his winning ways in Madrid, which happens to be one of his favorite tournaments.
The WTA also had plenty of action last week.
Clay is my favorite surface, and I decided to come and start a little bit early this year in the clay season just to get matches and adjust.
2018 Roland Garros finalist Sloane Stephens beat Magda Linette in 3 sets in the final in Rouen to lift her first title in 784 days and her 8th WTA title overall. I've always been impressed by Sloane's fluidity as a tennis player, and it's great to see her back in the winner's circle and, of course, playing some incredible tennis. But while Stephens was celebrating her title in France, Elena Rybakina was busy winning a $200,000 Porsche in Stuttgart, despite not having a driver's license.
You can hit the ball very fast. Is this the way you drive as well?
Well, guys, I actually don't have driver license.
Rybakina became the first player to beat Iga Swiatek in the semifinal in Stuttgart. Rybakina went on to claim her 8th tour-level title and her 3rd title of the year, and she's now 2nd in the WTA final race, less than 150 points away from Swiatek. Rybakina has now become the first player to reach 5 finals in the first 4 months of the year since Victoria Azarenka did it in 2012.
Just another crazy stat.
The world number 4's flawless serving was on full display throughout the tournament, and coupled with her calm confidence, no one could stand in her way. Rybakina has now won 26 of her 30 matches this season, which is a staggering 86.7% win rate, if my math is correct. And who did she beat in the final? Marta Kostyuk could only win 4 games against Rybakina in the Stuttgart final, but she would no doubt be proud of her performance the entire week.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people know, but I started my career love 14 against top 10 players.
Just a while ago, Kostyuk was 0-14 against top 10 players, but after taking down 3 top 10 players in the past week, we have an idea of just how good the Ukrainian can be. Kostyuk was pushed to 3 sets by Laura Sigmund in the opening round. She then went on to save 5 match points against Zheng Qinwen, down a break in the 3rd set against Coco Gauff, with Gauff serving for the match. Kostyuk again turned the tables and managed to defeat Gauff after 8 match points. She would then beat Marketa Vondrushova in straight sets to reach her 2nd final ever on the WTA Tour. But unfortunately, Kostyuk's brilliant movement was no match for Rybakina's brute force. Kostyuk had already played almost 6 hours in the first 2 rounds alone in Stuttgart, and after defying all odds to get to the final, Rybakina turned out to be a bridge too far to cross for Kostyuk.
But on the bright side, it's also the best season of her career. She's knocking on the door of the top 20 and is currently number 7 in the WTA race. We might want to keep an eye on her.
I should also mention that Iga Swiatek is now into her 100th week as world number 1, and only 8 other women in history have been able to reach that milestone.
Last week in tennis was a complete unraveling, and we're seeing more players now making statements of intent on the clay. Who are the best players to beat on clay, and what are your predictions for the clay season?
The Madrid Open comes up next with much higher stakes, and you surely don't want to miss out on any of the action. If you loved this video, hit that subscribe button, and if you missed out on last week's videos, I've got you covered right here.